Katharine Hepburn's story had it all: fame, controversy, bold roles, and relentless speculation about her personal life. But beyond the tabloid noise and whispered rumors lay a far more delicate truth. The story of a woman who fought her entire life for the right to be herself. Among the many romantic entanglements attributed to her, one stood out for its emotional weight: her complex, forbidden relationship with director John Ford. Years later, when Ford lay dying, Hepburn came to visit. They were alone, believing the recording equipment had been turned off. But the microphone kept running, capturing something raw and real: fragments of sorrow, unspoken feelings, and wounds that never healed. Katharine grew up in the early 20th century in a household many saw as odd, perhaps even radical. Her mother, a fierce advocate for women's rights, took young Katharine to protests and taught her to think independently. Her father, a pioneering doctor, encouraged her to be self-reliant. In the Hepburn home, societal judgment held no power. So when little Katharine declared she didn't want to be a girl, cut her hair short, and asked to be called Jimmy, her parents didn't scold her, laugh, or try to change her. Instead, they embraced her spirit. It wasn't just love, it was permission, a silent blessing for the battles ahead. She was a bright, athletic child, enamored with cinema and adventure. She found freedom on the golf course and wonder in the dark of the movie theater. But that light dimmed abruptly when she turned 13. During an Easter trip to New York with her brother Tom, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. They laughed, went to the theater, inseparable, carefree. The next morning, Katharine found Tom dead. He was 15. It was a loss that never stopped aching, a wound buried deep in her soul. The family wrapped themselves in denial. They refused to believe it was suicide, claiming instead it was a tragic accident, a miscalculated experiment. Katharine was left adrift, in silence, in grief, in half-truths. Tom's death turned her inward, made her guarded. Life moved on, but he remained with her, always, like a shadow on her shoulder. At college, she was an outsider. She avoided crowds, didn't eat with others. Yet even in her solitude, a spark remained. She didn't want to fit in. She refused to. She challenged norms, tested limits, and broke them. In one impulsive act of rebellion, she reportedly shed her clothes in defiance of societal expectations. It wasn't mere shock value, it was a statement. Katharine Hepburn's life, untamed, deaf during her college years, she began to shed the expectations and constraints that had been placed on her. One day, on a whim, she stripped off her clothes and dove into Closter Pond. Later, she was suspended from her dormitory for smoking. A small rebellion, but one with deep personal meaning. Around that time, she joined the university theater troupe. One day, she was cast in the lead role, a man. That transformation unlocked something within her. Masculine characters soon began to appear in her life offstage as well. And in them, perhaps, there was more truth than in any evening gown. It was during those years that she met Luddy Ogden Smith, a socialite, businessman, and someone from an entirely different world. Their youthful romance was full of promise, but the timing was wrong. Fate intervened quickly and brutally, leaving a wound on her heart that would ache for years to come. The theater became both her refuge and her mission, but the path to it was anything but smooth. Her father saw acting as a surefire route to poverty and failure. He didn't believe his daughter could survive in that world. But she was not one to quit. If anything, doubt only fueled her determination. Katharine Hepburn didn't soar to stardom overnight. Quite the opposite, she stumbled, failed, and endured humiliation. Her first experience on stage was a disaster. Stepping in for the lead actress at the last moment, she arrived late, forgot lines, and faltered in front of a live audience. After the show, she was fired. In search of comfort, she tried marriage, but only weeks into it, her heart pulled her back to the only place where it beat its loudest, the stage. 6 years of marriage became a kind of pact. Luddy supported her with everything he had. His money, his love, his unwavering faith, but she couldn't give the same in return. Her soul belonged to something else. The stage, the craft, the dream. She worked hard, fought even harder. Yet theaters still dismissed her. In the year 1931, she directly asked playwright Philip Barry why he didn't want her in his play. His answer struck deep, blunt, painful. But Hepburn was no delicate flower. She took the hit, stood up, and moved forward again. That persistence led to a turning point. In 1932, she was cast in the Broadway production The Warrior's Husband. On stage, she shone. For the first time, critics recognized her talent. In the audience was a studio scout who couldn't take his eyes off her. Soon after, Katharine was screen testing for RKO Pictures. The offer to star in A Bill of Divorcement was the opportunity of a lifetime. She made a bold demand, $1,500 a week. Audacious? Maybe. Reckless? Possibly. But she knew her worth. The studio took the risk and never looked back. Her debut was a triumph. Confident, natural, utterly unafraid of the camera. Critics raved. RKO signed her to a contract, and within 2 years, Katharine Hepburn won her first Academy Award, the first of 4. Notably, she never once attended the ceremony. But the dream of Hollywood quickly lost its luster. Behind the glamour lay drama, politics, and human heartbreak. Her career soared, but her marriage crumbled. She fell for her agent, Leland Hayward, a married man. It didn't stop her. Still, her divorce from Luddy was amicable. They remained lifelong friends. As her romance with Hayward flickered, another, deeper bond began to take shape with director John Ford. They met while working on Mary of Scotland in 1936. They shared a wavelength, finishing each other's sentences. Ford was captivated by this fiercely independent woman. He even considered leaving his wife to marry her. But family life wouldn't release its grip on him so easily. His wife threatened to take their daughter. Hepburn, as the story goes, even offered Mary Ford $50,000. Not as a bribe, but as a kind of liberation. She miscalculated. Mary was not for sale. One day during filming, the producer called Hepburn in a panic. Ford had fallen into a drinking binge, something entirely unlike him during production. She rushed to his side, not just as an actress to her director, but as a woman who truly cared. It was a world where emotions bled into lines, where success was tangled with sorrow, and the stage was inseparable from real life. In that world, Katharine Hepburn, despite every setback, remained true to herself. Bold, restless, difficult, but real. When she entered the room, the director was alone. Alone and lost in a drunken stupor. Desperate to snap him out of it, she forced him to drink a bizarre concoction, whiskey mixed with castor oil. She hoped it would jolt him awake, bring him back to life. But it turned into a nightmare. Instead of reviving him, it made him gravely ill. Panic overtook her. She thought she had killed him. But worse than the fear was the realization. She couldn't save him from himself. As she waited in vain for the broken director to return to her, another man quietly became a growing presence in her life. Leland Hayward. He waited, hoped. Both of them had left their previous marriages behind. There was freedom, there was affection, and the promise of a new beginning. But when Hayward asked her to marry him, she said no. That choice struck more than his pride. It changed the course of her career. Hurt and betrayed, Hayward didn't forgive. The role he had promised her in the play Stage Door, he took it back. And that was only the first blow. By 1936, her career was in a steep decline. 4 films in a row, each one a failure. Hollywood was turning its back on her. The press, once generous, began feeding on gossip and hearsay. Katharine Hepburn, with her sharp tongue, private nature, and fierce independence, refused to sign autographs or give interviews. What once seemed mysterious now looked like arrogance. They gave her a new nickname, Katharine the Arrogant. Audiences grew cold. The very qualities that had once made her a star now stirred resentment. The loose trousers, the confident stride, the unwavering stare. No longer admired, now criticized. She was called too masculine, unsexy. But she didn't back down. When word spread about an upcoming film, Gone with the Wind, she rushed in, clinging to the hope that this could be her turning point. But producer David Selznick delivered a brutal dismissal. "You're not sensual enough. There's no spark of passion in you." That was the final blow. She left Hollywood, not forever, but to breathe, to reclaim herself. And in that escape, she was caught by a man whose life was a constant pursuit of sky, speed, and records. Howard Hughes. He didn't see just an actress. In their unlikely union, something clicked. Two loners who finally found each other. They flew, traveled, shined. He took her to the finest places, laid the world at her feet. But the pain in her heart lingered. The name John Ford refused to fade. She still hoped he might come back. He never did. By the spring of 1937, worn out from waiting, she made a choice. She moved in with Hughes. He had it all: wealth, charm, excitement. He broke records, flew around the globe, and seemed unstoppable even to her. But Katharine wasn't a woman who could be bought. When he proposed, she didn't say yes. Not yet. There was one final test: his love for her roots. She took him to Fenwick, the place where her soul felt alive. But there, Hughes was a stranger. The house, the family, the history, it bored him. He showed his irritation. Her relatives, in return, showed their distrust. The answer became clear. She could never be with someone who didn't love the things that shaped her. Hughes left, alone. In 1938, she returned to the screen in Bringing Up Baby. Even this film, made with hope, only deepened the damage. Hollywood branded her box office poison. It was the lowest point of her career, but as history would prove, not the end. Because Katharine Hepburn was not a woman broken by failure. She was a woman forged by it. In 1939, when her star seemed to have faded, Katharine Hepburn stood tall on stage in The Philadelphia Story, a play that didn't just return her to the spotlight, but marked the beginning of her triumphant comeback. She knew this was her moment. In her pocket, like a protective talisman, she carried the screen rights to the play, a gift from a former lover. She guarded them like treasure, waiting for the day she could once again set the terms in Hollywood. That day came. Hollywood was watching her again, this time with admiration. And this time, she held the cards. Hepburn sold the rights to MGM, the studio that offered the best deal. But that was only the beginning. She knew her worth, her talent, and her vision. She wasn't coming back to fit in. She was coming back to take the throne. Naturally, she kept the lead role for herself. And to ensure success, she handpicked her co-stars, Cary Grant and James Stewart, two of the brightest names on screen. This wasn't just a film. It was a personal battle for dignity, for the public's love, for her name. And she won. The Philadelphia Story was a resounding triumph. Audiences fell in love with her all over again. But Katharine Hepburn never knew how to stop at a victory. To not conquer was to not live. Her next move was just as bold. The romantic comedy woman of the year. She didn't just act in it. She shaped it from the ground up, choosing director George Stevens and insisting on Spencer Tracy as her partner. At the time, she had no idea how deeply that choice would alter her life. From the first moment, she felt something more than intrigue. There was something grounded, stubborn, and strangely tender about him. He, on the other hand, wasn't immediately taken, perhaps unsettled by her force, her fame. But on screen, a spark was born, the kind that pulls in audiences and creates legends. And so began a story built on silence, pain, and unwavering devotion. Tracy was married. His Catholic faith left him no option. He couldn't leave his wife. He lived torn between duty and love. And Hepburn, she simply stayed. Always. Their relationship remained a secret, carefully guarded from the public. Studios did everything they could to keep it hidden. Hollywood's moral codes left no room for scandal. But rumors spread. Everyone knew. No one spoke. Within that silence grew something that went beyond a conventional romance. Tracy battled anxiety, addiction, and inner demons. Guilt haunted him, especially after the birth of his deaf son, whom he tragically saw as punishment for his sins. Hepburn became more than a lover. She was a comfort, a sanctuary, a mother figure he never had. She cared for him, endured his breakdowns, tried to soothe his sleepless nights and calm his thirst for alcohol. And through it all, she remained true to herself. Children? No, she had never wanted them. She said so openly. But in her life, there was a love vast enough to fill a family. She never complained, never asked for more. She simply loved long, patiently, with the strength only a truly strong woman can possess. The years passed. Tracy retreated further into shadow, and Hepburn into care. Her career never faltered. On the contrary, she achieved what few ever have: the enduring respect and fascination of audiences across decades. But behind the scenes was a story she rarely shared. A story of a woman who gave up the quiet of her heart to be present in the life of a man who could never truly be hers. It wasn't just love. It was destiny. She was a rare phenomenon of her time. Someone who managed to keep an undying brilliance when many around her gradually faded away. In an era when women were often cast into predetermined roles, she forged her own path, bold, free, and sincere. In the 1950s, when actresses were already hesitant to take on challenging roles, she, as if guided by the notes of her inner music, dared to take risks, diving deep into Shakespeare, as if proving to herself and the world that her talent knew no limits. The 1960s became a time of trials for her, not only on stage but in her soul. When Spencer Tracy's health, her longtime partner and the love of her life, began to rapidly decline, she stepped back from everything to be by his side, to love and care for him. 5 years of silence, stepping away from the spotlight, all for him. Their last film together, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, became a farewell chord, both a triumph and a loss. She earned her second Oscar, but just 17 days after filming, Spencer passed away. She was his secret angel, his treasure, and she refused to break their sacred bond, even declining to attend his funeral. Only after Louise Tracy's death in 1983 did the truth emerge, like a flash of light amid shadows. Their story is a Hollywood legend, but like any great tale, behind the glitter and romance lay secrets. Katharine Hepburn lived her life under the scrutiny of public eyes and tongues. Her short haircut, free-spirited style, and disinterest in traditional female roles made the world gossip. Whispers about her sexuality, discussions of her relationship with Tracy, speculations about who they truly were. Some even believed they were a cover for their real desires, that Hepburn was a lesbian and Tracy struggled with his own depression from suppressed feelings. But no rumors could overshadow the unique, timeless bond that connected their souls and hearts. After losing Spencer, Katharine did not retreat into the shadows of grief. She surged forward, toward new heights, new roles, a new life. It was then, against all odds, that she played Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine in The Lion in Winter, winning her third Oscar. For her, fame was never the goal, but in her hands it became both shield and sword, guiding her through the storms and tempests of fate. This is the story of a woman who did not just live her life but lived it brightly, boldly, and authentically. A woman who was unafraid to love and lose, to fight and triumph. She became more than an actress. She became a symbol of resilience and freedom of spirit. Katharine Hepburn, evolving and maturing over the years, seemed to blossom anew, not just on screen, but within herself. Her relationship with the press was always complicated. tinged with caution and mistrust. Yet by the early 70s, especially in 1973, she unexpectedly opened up a little more. I remember when she appeared on the Dick Cavett Show, 2 hours of live, sparkling conversation where her true, lively, and fiercely independent nature finally shone through. She knew what she wanted and never hesitated to speak plainly, sometimes so boldly that many listeners were taken aback. Hepburn was a genuine fighter for her beliefs, openly supporting women's rights to control their own bodies, unafraid to discuss contraception and abortion, and even with a touch of irony, proudly declaring that unlike most of Hollywood, she remained an atheist. In 1973, an unexpected reunion took place, almost like a scene from an old movie drama. Hepburn met again with John Ford, a man tied to her past and perhaps more than just work. Ford's grandson, working on his grandfather's biography, arranged the meeting and recorded their conversation. But when he stepped away to get his car, leaving the recorder on, Ford whispered words that seemed to melt the ice of many unspoken things. "I love you. I cherish you." This quiet, touching moment offered a glimpse into a depth not always visible on the surface. Years passed, friends and loved ones gradually departed, but Hepburn remained resilient and strong. Even in her 80s, she was energetic, like a wind impossible to catch. Tennis almost every day, new passions like painting. This was her way not just to survive but to live fully. Yet even the queen of mysteries that Katharine was could not escape inner pain. After her brother's death, she did something strange yet somehow touching. She changed her birth year to make herself 2 years older than him. This little secret she kept until the publication of her autobiography, where she finally revealed it all. By the early 90s, Katharine's health began to decline. The relentless pace of her long life took its toll. After a severe period of exhaustion, she still tried to keep working, but in 1996 pneumonia dealt a harsh blow. By 1997 it became clear. The era of Hepburn was slowly but surely coming to an end. But in every gesture, every word, remained the strength, independence, and passion that inspired millions, and continues to touch hearts today. She fought for 6 long years filled with an invisible, exhausting battle against a shadow that slowly stole her memory and took away pieces of herself. Dementia is not just an illness, it is a quiet enemy that steals moments, turning the familiar into something foreign, causing one to get lost in their own world. For an actress whose voice and smile once lit up stages and screens, it was especially hard, as if the inner flame that warmed her soul was slowly fading. In 2003, her heart, tired from the struggle, finally stopped. But in her passing, there was a gentle kind of beauty. In her last moments, she closed her eyes where she felt at home, in a place where every window and every corner held memories of bright days and love. In her hometown of Fenwick, Connecticut, the final chapter came quietly and peacefully. Her life is a story not only of pain and loss but also of the importance of having a place to return to, even when the body grows weak. Home, family, and memories are the light that stays with us until the very end.